I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you want gun control, the best thing you can do is buy more guns. Predictably, Hamburglar Hitler is once again attacking trans people, trying to now take away their rights to own guns simply because they are trans. Less predictably, though, every major gun lobby group, including the NRA, spoke out against Apricot Adolph's gun grab on trans people. Every single notable one immediately came out and said that they will stand for every single law-abiding citizen's right to own guns, no matter what, including standing with trans people against Trump, which is a break from the norm for them, but we'll get to that later. See, Pumpkin Spice Putin's trying to reclassify being transgender as legally being a mental disorder. People with mental disorders are not legally allowed to own guns for, obvious reasons. But before you can strip somebody of their constitutional rights for being too mentally unstable to own a gun, it requires a judge to declare them mentally unstable or commit them to a mental institution. Laws that, when we were in a slightly less insane timeline, were written at least under the direction of mental health professionals and not incompetent, unqualified cucks who are just really insecure about the fact that their browser history is full of trans porn. That is truly, really the only explanation, because statistically, trans people are not more violent at all. In fact, the opposite. Trans people are 4 times more likely to be the victims of violence and abuse than cisgender people. And with those stats, if anybody actually needs guns, it's trans people. Being trans is also not considered a mental disorder by any reputable mental health or psychiatric group in the world. And the mental health issues they do often suffer from have a lot less to do with them being trans, and a lot more to do with lack of access to services and support, and persecution and a lack of acceptance from family, community, society, and the law. And this isn't conjecture, it's objective fact. Access to gender-affirming care reduces suicide risk in trans people by 73%. So make sure you stand up for trans people's right to have access to gender-affirming care and guns, because they deserve both. And their access to both will save lives. But this is a lovely example of how Republicans are not now and never have been pro-Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is a great identity politics platform to catch all the stragglers you miss when you're convincing idiots that abortion is apparently a biblical issue. It's not, by the way, at all. And if you believe that, you didn't read your fucking book. Likely because you can't read, because if you could, you wouldn't be a Republican. So with that in mind, if you are really pro-banning guns or more robust gun control, which, seems like an odd stance to take at this moment in history, just on account of considering the fact that we all agree that we are being run by a literal Nazi who is, actively currently using the military to occupy Washington, D.C., sending federal agents and trying to send the military into Los Angeles, threatening to go occupy Baltimore and New Orleans, and literally declaring war on Chicago. It seems like if there was ever a time for everybody to have guns, now kind of feels like it would be that time. Just saying, the tyrannical government is here. Guys, it's here. Now. The one we pretend the Second Amendment is there to defend us against. It's really there to quell slave revolts, or that's why it was written, but that's another story. But even with all that, it is still a relatively effective tool to resist fascism, because, for an ICE agent, it's all fun and games when you get to go kidnap unarmed brown people with your buddies. But when you go out for a fun afternoon of abductions and you pull up to the Mexican restaurant and realize you gotta go through strapped Susan and her crochet club that just got done crocheting colorful shoulder straps for their ARs, well, ain't nobody wants to die trying to kidnap Jose. And as much as we love to talk about how peaceful resistance is the best way, and it absolutely is. I'm in no way advocating for violence, but I am advocating for a backup plan, because every single liberty we have in this country has been paid for with blood and bullets. For every MLK, there is a Malcolm X. Behind every successful strike is a Battle of Blair Mountain to remind the oligarchs there that the picket line isn't protecting the workers. It's giving the oligarchs the chance to do the right thing before the workers go to Plan 2A again. And remember that Kansas entered the Union as a free state instead of a slave state almost exclusively because John Brown was out there shooting motherfuckers. But hey, if you're still really passionate about gun control, despite the fact that we have literal Nazis attempting a military coup of American cities, we can still find common ground on this topic, because the solution to armed resistance and more gun control is the same thing. And that is to buy guns. Lots and lots and lots of guns. Buy guns for your black friends and your brown friends and your trans friends and your gay friends and your women friends. Start passing out guns like you're Oprah Winfrey. And then join gun clubs like the Socialist Rifle Association or the John Brown Gun Club. Or create your own gun clubs. Think of like matching hats and shirts or jackets. Then train a lot on how to safely carry, handle, and use those guns. And learn how to walk in lines. Lines are fucking scary. They look organized as shit. Nobody wants to fuck with a line full of armed people. And set up a community fund to make sure that everybody can afford to get the proper certifications to legally carry those guns where you are. And then just go start patrolling the streets of your community and doing good shit like feed kids and help old ladies across the street. Set up free banned book libraries. Fundraise for scholarships. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Once you've done all that, you're all trained. You can walk in really scary lines. You got matching berets. The community loves you because you're feeding kids and handing out books like you're Dolly Parton. March your ass down to the Capitol building or the courthouse or your congressman's office, and then stand there where you're legally allowed to stand with your legally owned and carried firearms and just look scary as shit. Don't shoot anybody. Don't threaten anybody. You're not there to use your guns. You're just exercising your Second Amendment right. And they just have one or two people with megaphones out there saying inspirational shit about how the government should stop being a dick. And then when you're not doing that, every time there's an ICE raid or Cancun's Caligula sends the army into your town, go out there and stand in their way. Don't threaten anybody, don't shoot anybody, just be there, looking scary and shit. Republicans will pass gun control so fast you'd think that guns were trans Mexican kids trying to get an abortion and a free school lunch. Don't believe me? Almost all the major post-Depression era gun control laws we have are because of exactly that. And they were passed by Republicans with help of the NRA. You know how Republicans love to be like, California is this liberal anti-gun hellscape. Well, California's restrictive gun laws weren't passed by liberals, they were passed by fucking Reagan. Because like I said, Republicans aren't pro-Second Amendment, but they are very pro-racism. And so in the 60s, when the Black Panthers decided that they could no longer trust Klansmen in cop costumes to police their towns, and asking politely for civil rights didn't seem like it was working, they legally purchased and carried guns, got berets, learned how to walk in lines, took care of their communities, started the first free lunch programs in schools, stood out and looked scary in front of courthouses when black men were on trial to make sure that lynch mobs didn't lynch them, stood out and looked scary in front of government buildings when they weren't getting the civil rights attention they deserved. And scary brown people with guns caused Reagan, with the help of the NRA, to pass the Mulford Act, the act that made it illegal to carry a firearm in public in the state of California. And then in 1986, when Reagan was president, he banned machine guns because those were the scary black guns the Black Panthers were carrying. So it turns out you can be pro-gun control and an armed anti-fascist at the same time. So buy guns, you'll resist tyranny and get gun control. Or, you know, we could focus our energy on solving things like poverty by making sure people have access to healthcare, food, housing, etc., the things that actually reduce violent crime. But I know, radical. So since we're clearly not going to do that, what we can do is buy guns.